So we need to talk about HPI because after my Savage XS review, I got a bunch of questions like, is HPI still around? Can I get parts? Are the cars still any good? And yes to all of that. The new HPI is working really hard at getting products out there for you. Here in the US, they're distributed by HRP, Hobby Recreation Products, and they're really ramping up on the stock. And the cars, they're still really good. I mean, come on guys, they're HPI. They make some great stuff. And we just got some new stuff in here at the shop. We've got the jump shots in, and these things are really cool. Let me head over to the workbench and show you guys what we got. So we didn't just get one jump shot in, we got three of them in. We've got the MT, we've got the ST, and the SC, and they're all the Flux editions, which means they're brushless and they're gonna be fast and fun. But in this video, I'm just going to concentrate on the MT, and the reason why is because I miss driving my MT. I actually have an original one over there. That is a pre-production truck. There's parts on there that were changed before the production models came out, and it's kind of special to me, and I've wanted to drive it, but I haven't because it's kind of a rare truck in my opinion. And so I want to start off by driving the MT because I think this is a really cool truck. So let me pull up a chair and we'll go over all the details of the new Jumpshot MT. So for the new RC drivers joining us, the HPI Jumpshot MT Flux is a 1/10 scale, two-wheel drive, electric, brushless powered monster truck, and it's gonna be great for backyard bashing or taking to the local park and ripping around fields and stuff. And this truck has a number of revisions on it as well, so it's going to be tough. All right, let's go over the details of this kit, and let's start off with the body on here. And in true HPI fashion, it has some killer graphics on this body. It's all pre-printed from the bottom. Actually, there's some decals on the top as well, but this just has a very cool look, and it's got the Flux logo on there. Love the graphics on here. I actually like this better than my original truck over there. It just has this modern flatbed truck look to it, really cool headlights and grille, decals for the windows, obviously, because it's just a bastard truck, but looks awesome overall. 4 body clips hold that down to the chassis. And now we can talk about the truck because there's some really cool stuff on here that you should know about with HPI. And let's just start off right with the chassis itself. Usually I start off with the front, but I want to start off with the chassis because it has this unique twin vertical plate chassis. And this was really well known on the Savage, and I love how they carried it over here. Just kept that look throughout their vehicles. And this makes for a really strong platform. It's a 2.5 millimeter thick aluminum, and it spans from the front to the rear of the truck. And there's actually modules here, so you can kind of pull the front off as a module, the rear off as a module, and the center electronics tray and battery tray is a module as well. But I really like the light gray anodizing on here. Just kind of gives you, a sense of value for your dollar here, that you're getting aluminum for the chassis plate versus a plastic that is used on some other vehicles. I also like that they went and put the Jumpshot logo here, laser etched that. Just an awesome look to the chassis, and it makes it really, really rigid. All right, now I'll move on to the front of the truck, and this is kind of unique too. I mean, we've got a servo sticking out of the front shock tower here. You don't see that design on many other vehicles out there. Makes it look pretty interesting. But let me start here with the front bumper. It's kind of got this small front bumper. It's almost like a two-wheel drive buggy front bumper on here. I wish they kind of had something a little bit more substantial since it's a monster truck and you probably got to nosedive down into something. The front of the body hangs over. Probably would have been cool if they had something like that, but this little skid bumper here will help you slide over objects and stuff. And right behind there is an aluminum tie bar that helps hold the suspension pins together, so if you hit something, it doesn't necessarily rip the hinge pins out of the bulkhead. You still got to worry about the arm, obviously, but the arms on here look really nice. There is some flex to it, so if you do hit some stuff, hopefully it flexes before it breaks, and in a basher, that's really important. But the arms do look good. Up above the arm are fixed links, and the original truck had really thin links on here, and they went and revised those. There's extra material now on the top and bottom of them, so they won't bend. And actually that truck back there has some bent links on it because when I was driving it, tumbling it, it would just kind of collapse that link. So I really like that they went ahead and revised it here. Still kept with a fixed link, which is fine for bashing to me. And again, it should work fine. There's not a lot of tuning adjustments on here, kind of just 2 holes down here for the shocks, 3 up top, and just a couple for the link. You're really never going to change that. The truck was well set up right out of the box. But this shock tower here, really heavy duty looking shock tower, because it's got to perform double duty basically. It's got to support your front suspension and that servo all in one. But just kind of makes things a bit easier as far as, you know, when you need to take stuff apart to clean it up, you could take this module off and get to everything that you need to clean up really easily. On the outside of the arms here, we've just got your standard looking caster blocks and steering knuckles. The ball bearings to support the front axles are in the steering knuckle, but pretty robust looking setup there for this style of truck. I think that's going to hold up pretty well. And then we've got adjustable tie rods for the steering. It goes right to the servo saver. And from what I gather, there is a new servo saver design on here as well. So hopefully that holds up to some abuse. And since it's got a servo saver in there, it damps any hits that are going to the servo. So it'll help your servo last a bit longer. Overall, good looking setup. Now the shocks on here are oil-filled composite body shocks. They do have threads here for the preload collars, so you can go and adjust the preload to the shock. What I do also like is there's a little paint code here on the spring, so it doesn't just seem like a standard spring that are just thrown onto the shocks. Usually when there's a paint code, it's more of a tuning spring, and it should help with the damping of this vehicle. The shocks do feel pretty good. There's just a little bit of clicking from the spring hitting the body. Not too big of a deal, but these shocks I think are going to work pretty well. They're a bit longer in the rear than they are in the front. And since I mentioned the rear, let's talk about the rear suspension. We've got H-arms out back with some really chunky hubs on the outside. And again, we've got those revised upper links on there as well. Just these little mounting bosses that mount to the side of the chassis to affix those links to. Pretty simple setup. If you ever have to, again, if you have to work on it or replace stuff, everything looks like it's really easy to get to. Now let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the center here, and let's start off with the battery tray, which is a bottom load style of tray. And I actually like this particular setup. I'm not too big of a fan of bottom loading setups here, but this one, I think they did it right. And so basically the clip up front here, you remove that to pop the lower hatch off the tray. And there's this little kind of guide pin that you just stick your finger in through the chassis and you push down on this pin right above that lower tray, and it helps pop the tray open so you can access your battery. And with these bottom loading batteries, what happens is some dirt gets in here, so it can be hard to get this door open. But that little push tab right there really helps make things a lot easier to pop it open. And what's nice is when your battery is this low, when it's bottom loading, it keeps the CG lower, so it helps this truck handle better. So I like the setup on this. That is very cool. Up above it is the receiver box. It's this massive receiver box for a little tiny receiver that's inside. It is sealed with a rubber gasket. However, the gasket doesn't go all the way around. It's open in the front. Not too big of a deal because all the electronics in here are waterproof. So, you know, they could have actually extended that seal, but I guess that's not a big deal in the end of things. There's two screws that hold it down, pretty much secures it. You don't really need to get in there if you're running the factory electronics from here on out. And then right behind it is the speed controller, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I do want to just point out really quickly, it does have a guard to cinch down on this speed controller so it doesn't move. I really like that. While I'm up top here, I also want to talk about the body mounts. So up front, you got these wings that come off the side of the chassis here with adjustable body mounts. And they look a little on the thin side, but they seem to flex a lot. So I think instead of you know, breaking off in a crash, they're just really going to flex. Hopefully I'm correct on that one. And then in the rear, we've got a really substantial looking body mount. And again, adjustable posts on there. Pretty thick looking shock tower in the back as well. Now let's move on to the transmission. Now, the transmission has been revised from what I gather. It's the V2 style of transmission. And in this particular setup, we have all metal gears on the inside, HD gears. And when I took it apart, it's got a really wide gear in there. So the top shaft gear, the idler gear, the differential gear, they're all really wide metal gears. And then on the inside of the differential, which is sealed, we've got bevel gears in there as well. Metal gears with metal cross pins. And it looks like a really good setup. There's a gasket in there. We've got O-rings in there. And it comes from the factory with 1,000 weight oil, which actually feels a little bit light. And I noticed there was a little bit of leakage from the transmission, but there was oil still in the differential. So something was leaking there. I don't know if maybe the grease was oozing out or maybe a little oil oozed out from when they were building it or something. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I did see that. It was a little wet down by the out drives. There are obviously steel out drives, steel dog bones on here, and steel axles out to the wheels. 12 millimeter hex throughout this car if you're looking to see what kind of optional wheels are out there if you want to go and customize it. Let me finish talking about the transmission. It's got a dual pad slipper clutch on the outside here, and I did notice it has a metal motor plate. So the main motor plate is composite. It's part of the transmission, but then to support the motor, they have an additional metal plate here. So I like that setup. That looks pretty cool. Metal pinion gear, obviously, and composite spur gear. But I like that they have a full cover on here now to protect the gears. On the truck back there, the slipper assembly was sticking out of the side, which means dirt could get in there. But they went and sealed it up and put a little rubber cap on there so you could still adjust the slipper clutch tension if you need to. All right, now we can talk about the electronics in here. So we have a standard high torque servo up front, again, damped by a servo saver on there. The HPI waterproof receiver is mounted inside this box, secured with two-sided tape. And then we have the HPI Racing Flux speed controller. It is a 2 to 3S speed controller. It's got a cooling fan on top. It is even programmable as well. It is fitted with a T-plug, and when you're going to get a battery pack, whether it's a 2 or 3S pack, just make sure it has a T-plug on there. And then all the power goes out back to a 4,000 kV flux motor from HPI. So again, this thing should have plenty of power to it. It probably should even have a wheelie bar stock, but that is an aftermarket option with this truck. There are a number of option parts. So again, if you want to go modify this truck or customize it, you'll be able to do that. And now finally, on the truck itself, let me talk about the wheels and tires. So obviously we got these really cool black spoke wheels on here, 12 millimeter hex again, and then a nice kind of soft tire. The original tire that I have on my original is kind of a hard compound, and this almost feels sticky to it. So I think it's gonna have a lot of traction for any type of surface that you're rolling on. All right. Finally, let me show you what's in the box. So it comes with the HPI TF41 radio system, lots of trims on here, steering trim, your dual rate, got a nice foam wheel, takes 4 AA batteries in the bottom. That's another thing that you're going to need. You're going to need 4 AA batteries, you're going to need a 2 or 3S LiPo battery pack, and then a charger, obviously. But the radio itself, 2.4 gigahertz, and has a really good feel to it. I like that. And then, of course, like every other cart, you're going to have an instruction manual. Definitely read through all that. You get some HPI decals, some important information. I think that's warranty stuff, a registration card, and a little baggie with tools, some extra body clips, and some extra servo pieces. So if you go swap out your servo for a different brand, there's some adapters there that you could use. All right, guys, I can't wait to go rip on this thing. Let's go find some dirt and tear it up. All right, guys, I'm here at the BMX Check with the Jumpshot MT. I've already been running it around. This thing is a blast. Unfortunately, this is about the only section I could run it in because everything is covered in mud and snow, but still, it's been a lot of fun. I'm running it on 2S right now, so you can see the rip this thing has with it. All right, I'm gonna pull on throttle here. Look at it, wheelies instantly. I really do think this thing needs the optional wheelie bar. It just pulls wheelies nonstop. You really have to roll into the throttle, but once you do, it hooks up, and man, it's got some air time behind it. Look at that. A little brake action. This thing is fun for, I love two-wheel drive monster trucks. I'm not sure if you guys know that, but I do. They're just a blast to drive. They're a little bit of a challenge. I think that's why I like them so much. But when you get them dialed in, they are just a blast. Look at that air. Yeah. And that's not even full, that's not even close to full throttle. I mean, the front actually gets really light on this, and because of that, you really need to manage the throttle, so just be aware of that. But watch this, full throttle, yeah, and lots of air time. This thing jumps really smooth. Once you roll on the throttle, it just sails over the jumps. All right, watch this jump again. Full throttle there. Nice and level for a two-wheel drive truck. That's pretty cool. Oh, I'm rock crawling right now. A little hard to see with the tree shadows here, but I'm gonna do another jump. Yeah. Oh, I love this thing. Like I said, it's a little light in the front. You gotta manage the throttle, but once you do, watch. Yeah. Oh, a little tap of the brakes, settle it right in. Little chirping from the gears, not too big of a deal. Yeah, it just sails. You see that? You just got to roll in on the throttle, and that's what this thing really loves. Just keep that front end down, and then you can soar it. Yeah. Oh, major hit. Oh, turtled it. But this is fun. This is a good truck. Yeah. All right, you know what I'm gonna do? Enough of this. I am going to go and put the 3S pack and just do some rips over in the parking lot. All right, I've got that 3S LiPo battery in there. Let's see what it does with just a full pull. Whoa, almost flipped over backwards. All right, we're definitely gonna have to roll into the throttle on this one. All right, roll into it. Oh, I can already tell it wants to go. Rolling in. It's dipping out. Oh man, yeah, it needs a wheelie bar. This thing is just a pure speed machine on 3S. Whoa, that was like half throttle. I just wanted to go over backwards. Oh, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to get it to top speed for you guys. Yeah, it's lifting. That's it, half throttle. That's all I could do on 3S. It is a power beast. See if I can do it again. Roll in. Oh, that sounded rough. It's still good though. I thought I heard a crack. Nope, it's good. Oh, I don't know, guys. I think this is just a perfect 2S truck. I think it still needs a wheelie bar on 2S. 3S is just an insane animal. Oh, that was like quarter throttle. You can't even keep the front end down. Whew. All right, really slow roll. Nope. Oh man, it just wants to go. I don't even know if I could carry the wheelie. Let me see if I can carry the wheelie. Oh, we dipped out. Yeah, it needs more. Oh, heard some gear crack there. Oh, I think I blew the spur. Yeah, I just ground it down. It's done anyway. All right, I'll take it back to the workshop. I'll let you guys know what happened. All right, drivers, it's time to wrap things up on the Jumpshot MT Flux, and this thing does look cool. It is fast, it's a lot of fun, but there was a little bit of a hiccup just getting going with this thing, and that was the radio was not bound to the receiver right out of the box. So I turned everything on. It didn't do anything. I had to go pull the receiver box top off and rebind the radio to the receiver before I could even get going. And the throttle trim on there was reversed as well, so I had to go and make that change. And usually for ready to run, it should come set up out of the box. Fortunately, there's some good instructions in the manual that tell you how to do it, but a little bit of a bummer getting going with this truck. However, when I went over to the BMX track to drive this thing, it is very cool. It is super fast on a 2S battery, and I'll talk about 3S in a little bit. That's a little crazy, but on 2S, this thing pulls wheelies right off the start. It will carry some wheelies. And actually, the front end of it is pretty light. So after a little while of doing wheelies, it gets a little old, I guess you could say, because the front end is always popping up on this. And where this truck is really at home is in larger spaces. If you have a small space to run it, you're gonna see the front end lift up a lot. Unfortunately, that takes away from the steering. You could roll the truck over backwards. So if you have a larger area where you can just ramp up onto the throttle, run it around, it is very cool in that respect, but in closed-in areas, it might be a little too jittery for that. And that's just because of the shorter wheelbase of the truck. It's understandable, but I would actually like to see maybe weights for the front of this truck. The front is very light. However, when you let off the throttle so you could steer into a corner, there is plenty of steering with this truck. Definitely great for backyard use, even driving it around in the dirt, blasting around, just doing fun little tricks and stuff like that. The steering works perfect for those type of situations. But just that bouncing front end type of thing, just be aware of how the truck handles and then adjust your driving style accordingly. Jumping wise, this thing jumps fantastic. You saw it over some of those big jumps at the BMX track. Almost jumped like a two-wheel drive stadium truck. It's got a similar platform to the ST back there, but it jumped really, really well. I had so much fun launching it off those jumps at the BMX track and just watching it glide through the air. It was so cool to see. Speed-wise, again, on 2S, it is fast. Ripping across the parking lot there, that was super cool to watch. It could probably use a little bit heavier of a diff oil in the rear. Kind of diffs out pretty easy, so you have to roll onto the throttle. But once you do that, you could get up to some pretty cool speeds, and that's a lot of fun. On 3S, I think this thing is a bit overpowered. I think it's really at home on 2S. And on 3S, I mean, it just spun out a lot. On grass, you could probably ramp it up on grass, really get some cool speed runs because you got the traction there with the 3S pack. But I wouldn't use 3S often in this truck, in my opinion. And if you were, I would say definitely get the wheelie bar, maybe even get the wheelie bar for when you're running 2S. But other than that, this truck was a blast to drive. All right, now we got to talk about durability. And at the track, I landed on the rear of the truck, and where I'm leading to with this is, I think I hit the rear pretty hard and loosened up the motor a little bit. And when I started running it on 3S, I blew out the spur gear on that, and you guys saw that at the end of the video. I'm going to say it's because the motor moved when I had that hard hit on the rear, and maybe having a wheelie bar would have taken that impact away from it. But that's a quick fix. Actually, the motor moved just a little bit, so I could actually push it forward, and it'll be a little loud because of the teeth are a little chewed up on there. But I could actually go and still run this truck as is. But of course, I'll get a new spur gear for it, and spur gears aren't a lot of money. But as part of your maintenance routine, I'd say definitely check your pinion and spur mesh if you do come down on the rear while you're out there driving this truck. But overall, I love the Jumpshot. I had a lot of fun with it when I drove the original one. This Flux version definitely has a ton of power on tap to be a lot of fun, and it's just a really cool truck. And like I said, hit up your local hobby shop. If they deal with HRP, they'll be able to get this truck for you. If you're an online shopper, check out Hobby Recreation Products. But HPI, it's cool to see them back. All right, guys, that wraps things up. Let me know in the comments section below what you think of the Jumpshot MT. While you're there, hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell. Throw the video a like, and we'll see you back soon for some more RC Driver videos.